AustralianMusiciansRadio.com.
Crazy to live face to face each day, and baby, we need to spread it out so love don't die. Save me some interest later, don't spend it all on me now, and save all your questions for Tinder, and find the real thing somehow. We all see the picture in part, and that's the reason it sparks. I'll save you some interest for later, won't spend it all on you now. And crazy to live face to face each day, and baby, we need to spread it out so love don't die. Save me some interest for later, don't spend it all on me now. We don't need to find forever, and let's just dance all night long. And romance is love in the moment, and gently moving on. I'll save you some interest for later, won't spend it all on you now. And crazy to live face to face each day, and baby, we need to spread it out so love don't go. Crazy to live face to face each day, and baby, we need to spread it out so love don't die.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Bar Talk podcast. How you going, guys? Of course, I hope you did enjoy that little tipple of a music song. That was... Actually, you might remember that song, if those of you who are very keen-eyed and have been listening and keeping up to date with everything. You may imagine, I think it was like 20 episodes ago, in the early part when we revamped, really when we didn't know what we were doing. Actually, I lie. We still don't know what we're doing. I don't think we're ever going to know what we're doing. So, just take that as you will. But the point is, you may recognize that song. And if you did, it's for good reason. We've actually played that song before. As I said, 20 episodes ago. As for what it's called, I'm glad you asked, folks. It was Crazy by the August River Band, from their brand new album, Thank You Pain. And I'm so thankful today and I'm not feeling any pain whatsoever. So, I mean, there you go. But I'm super thankful because I've got from the band themselves, Gerard. Gerard.
How you going, mate?
Hey.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, good morning, good night. And welcome to the Bar Talk Truman Show with Jim Daniel and Gerard in the Moon. How's it going?
Mate, it's going very well. Yeah.
What's the name of the guy? Oh, it's Christoph. I was going to say that's the guy in the moon, isn't it? It's like the big, like the fake moon.
That's it.
Yes, it's a flat earther's wet dream. The big dome.
That might be crazy. Could you get that in the big job?
Ooh. That joke was on point. Hang on, there's no part. That joke was. No, I can't even say that a joke felt flat because it didn't. It was a very real joke, unlike the moon in the Truman Show. Jared, welcome to the show,
mate. Thanks for having me.
I feel like as always, the start of these interviews always ends up being a train wreck. Unlike your recent album. Which, first of all, congratulations on you and the other two in your trio.
Thank you
for putting out an excellent album. I've been eyeing it off actually since we played it because it's been a while since you've been releasing these singles, and I thought, we've got to keep an eye out for what they're doing and see if we can get them on the show. Make some mental note back in May or whenever it was, but
exactly.
I was going to say you missed the mark on the album a bit. August River Band, is it like what October the complimentary August month?
Correct. Well, mate, beggars can't be choosers, and it's been a difficult year for all in sundry. And so our initial plans, which were 12 months old in forecasting, was that we were going to release the album in August. It made sense. It just made sense. But because of all those things, we won't say the word, because of COVID, etc. We really struggled, obviously, and had to remap the way our direction. So October it was, and we just had our album release couple of weeks ago, October 2nd, and it was a wonderful night at the Tivoli, and it was awesome.
Yes, let's talk about that. We were mentioning it before the interview too, that you paid, was it sold out? Was it a sold out show, or was that the previous one you did?
No, it was just the previous one. It wasn't sold out, but we got close. Again, there was a fair bit of adversity, and it was a long weekend here in Brisbane, and we had obviously COVID. People were concerned, when the tickets went on sale, and also it was the end of school holidays. So there was a bit of adversity, but we ended up getting about 230 or thereabouts. So that was a great 300 capacity. So we're really happy with that.
I was going to say normally it wouldn't be such an achievement, but really in these times it is. Correct. It is a really good achievement. I was going to say people worried about COVID. It's just like these days, instead of how you get on the tables there at pubs or whatever, or the restaurant, correct, you get like your thing of salt, your pepper. You usually got like your napkins. Next, you got a can of Glen 20 to spray down the table.
Yeah,
it's like you come too close, sir.
Disinfect. No, mate, we were very fortunate to get the numbers that we did, and we were very appreciative of it. I mean, it wasn't an easy thing to do, and we certainly, were full of gratitude because they were really strong numbers considering.
I was going to say, speaking of the venue, because the Tivoli, I've never been to Brizzy, and it is on my bucket list. Don't worry, I haven't been avoiding it, just haven't had the chance to come up there. So please forgive me.
Beautiful.
I've heard, and you guys have got a great music scene up there. Let's say it's a bit beating Melbourne's at the moment. But
for good reasons, but yes.
But the Tivoli is one of those venues that you know about even if you haven't been there.
Mate, it's an iconic venue. It's just gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's old. It's got a real romance about it, and the sound's amazing. They had like a cabaret style seating set up. So we had sort of tables and chairs. We had some seating. We were allowed to stand up at the time. And also there's a tier above. So, we had enough numbers to fill all of that up. And it was just beautiful. It was gorgeous.
Well, I was going to say, because you mentioned that there was a bit of an upside to, circumstances happening that you may have got upgraded, so to speak.
It's the only, so that is a 1600 person venue under normal circumstances. And we were actually booked to go into what they call What's Golden, which is just basically a micro version, still on site, still the same place, but they put a big curtain across and they have 400 max there. And so they have a small stage, etc. Still a beautiful thing. But probably the only positive out of this whole campaign was the fact that we did get upgraded onto the big stage. And so we took all opportunities. We had all the media and social media people there and lots of cameras and got it all on, got it all recorded. So for a bit of prosperity and for future social reference.
Something to put on when the next time the next pandemic hits and you got nothing to post.
Correct.
It's COVID,
exactly.
COVID 2. Pandemic boogaloo, guys. Let's go.
You know what? Let's not say that.
Well, I never get predictions right, so that's why I'm predicting that it's going to happen.
You know, Yui Geller. Anyway,
but yes, it is like the music equivalent of getting bumped up to business class.
Correct.
Without
exactly
paying for the ticket.
Happened. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So no, we were very thankful. And mate, look. You know, I have to say again, we were full of gratitude. It was a wonderful night. You know, we had Colin Lilly open up for us. We had a local Brisbane band called Ham that finished the show off. We went in the middle, and it was just the flow, the feel, the excitement. The whole night was just, we couldn't have asked for any more.
Yes, Colin. I love Colin. For those of you that remember, we, of course, had him on as a guest, so I was so excited to see that you played with him. Connections everywhere. It's a small world. But yes, bringing his desert-singed beard to grace Brisbane, Vegas.
I'm probably the only bloke out there that can put him to shame with a beard.
Oh yeah, we'll have to do a beard comparison. You know, I'll talk about. I'll get an Instagram poll going this week.
You'll have to. Yeah, I reckon I've got him. However, it must be said that I believe Colin had a little shear a few months ago. So there you go.
He did mention that on air. So yeah, he's probably regretting that now.
Not to worry.
But yes, it's been a long time coming, this album, because as we mentioned before, you were supposed to release it in August, and it's honorary August at the moment because of it's been delayed. But no stress. Everyone's been delayed at this stage. Nobody's plans are really going ahead at the moment. But let's talk a bit more about, I guess, the process behind putting the album together, because it is the first album you've released as the band.
Correct.
Yes. But it's not, as you mentioned before we went on air, it's not your first rodeo or something like that.
No. So, you know, everyone's been involved for a long time in the whole music thing in different ways, shapes and forms. And August River Band came together approximately about 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So Lil and Eve met on Bandmix, which is kind of a Tinder for music, kind of.
I've heard about that. But I haven't. Can you rate people like Uber, or is it like Tinder where you can't?
So it's just purely a site where people sort of say, "Hey, I play trumpet. Hey, I play guitar. Hey, I'm a bass player," and vice versa. I'm looking for a bass player. I'm looking for a drum, whatever. So the bottom line is that Eve is native. He's South African, and he's been out in Australia now for about 7 or 8 years.
I was going to say, I thought I heard a South African accent at the start of one of the songs.
Yes,
that was him.
That's correct. So he's from South, and that's where that's where he come from. And then what happened was, by pure chance and fluke,
he doesn't play flute as well, does he?
No, he does not.
Oh, okay. So there's their pun out the window. Sorry.
He does not. But what happened is that he then met Lil, and Lil sort of answered his calls, his advert, and she is South Africa. She comes from South Africa, so she moved out to Australia to do her physio studies. When she was 20 years of age. So there was an instant, synergy between the two of them, and they speak Afrikaans and blah, blah, blah. And so they were together for a couple of months and, punched through a few songs and started creating. And then basically, it's a bit of a long story, but they needed a drummer. I knew Eve through a mutual friend, and I saw something on social media, and I saw him at his place of work, and I said, mate, I really love what I heard on the weekend. It was really cool. There was only one problem. There's no drums. And he said, well, why don't you come along and have a hit? So that's how it started. 2.5 years of really hard work and graft, building songs, creating, correlating, and then, doing a lot of gigs, both small, medium, blah, blah, blah. And then we went into the studios at the start of the year on the 3rd and 4th of January. And we had done some previous recordings for some singles. And we had sort of done that at Airlock, which is Ian Hogg from Powderfinger's his studio. And we really liked the experience. It was fantastic. We did some recordings live. We did some to a click track. And we just decided that it was best for us to record live. And that took us to Yamanui Studios, and we got introduced to Paulie B, and so we went in there at the start of the year.
So the whole album is a live studio recording?
100%. So here's the really cool part. We went in on the 3rd and 4th, which was a Friday and Saturday. On the Saturday, we played all of our songs, got a feel, went through them a couple of times. On the trip back to Brisbane that night, we had a chat. We condensed it to 10 songs, which were kind of predetermined, sort of.
So were there many songs that you did have to cut?
We probably took to the studio around about 18 songs, 17. So we cut sort of 7 or 8. There's 10 songs on the album. We rocked up the next day and we went through the 10 songs once and we recorded it. And then at 2, we had a drink and a relax. And at 2:00 in the afternoon, we went back in and we recorded the album in an hour. So the magic happened for us. It was kind of very cool.
That's efficiency right there, 110%.
So it was very cool, mate. It was very cool. But by the way, it should be said, there was a lot of hard work and preparation.
Don't mention that. Nobody likes to hear about that, Gerard. It was done in one take. You'd never met before. It's the first time you let it out. It was magic, folks. It was magic.
But you know what, Daniel? It was magical. And I mean that truly. It was magical. It happened for us, and we just kept rolling through. And Paulie was there at the desk, and he just kept saying, well, let's do the next one. We're looking at an album. And, mate, it was beautiful. So we were very happy. Look, there were some add-ons with bass, etc., backing vocals, etc. But the absolute crutch, the vocals, the guitar, violin, and drums were done in an hour.
I'm impressed. I was going to say, I know most people can't even write a song in an hour, but to put a whole album together, that is impressive. I'm very, I'm impressed.
It was a good afternoon.
Yeah, it's that's pretty cool, and it really does, I guess, highlight how cohesive you are as a unit. Really,
we pride ourselves on that, mate. That's our thing. That's there's lots of bands out there, lots of brilliant bands out there. There's so many great musicians. And so, what can we do that's different, or what can we do? Well, what we need to do is we need to do it really well. We're a trio. There's only 4 components, three instruments and a vocal. So, it has to be done well. And so we pride ourselves on being tight and working hard, I suppose,
Absolutely. You would only get a project as tight and as consistent throughout, which makes sense, pretty much done in one take, as it is. So just to quickly give you a rundown too, for those who didn't, we went through this before the show. You're much more organised than I say a lot of our guests, because we never go through this, hardly ever go through this. And it ends up being 10 minutes of, okay, so who did this? Who did what? But Eve, who is the one that comes with you said the structure of the songs. He's the singer and the songwriter.
He's the singer-songwriter, mate. He brings the tunes. He writes the words, he writes the music, and he brings them to the room, to us. And then we sit there and try and sprinkle some dust over it all, and collaborate and knock it back and forth and, look at the structure of it. And, I think that we do a pretty good job of that.
Does he tend to come with a pretty much a fully fledged song when he brings it to you, or is it really just bare bones? We've got an idea here. Try this on violin.
No. So most of the time, Eve comes with a structured, fully, vented, if you like, song. And then what happens is, and I have to say this because it's really important, Eve has been beautiful to both Lil and I in that some of, singer-songwriters would walk into a room and say, that's it, that's the way it's going to be, that's the way I want it played. Eve has never said that. What we do is we play it and he says, you just throw your cast your net over it. You do what feels right, what, stirs your soul. You play with it and let's see how it goes. And so in general terms, that's what happens. He comes with a song. It's genuinely, 99 point, a structured song. And then we knock that about. We might turn it around a little bit, do this, put a stop here potentially. But it's just, it works. It's been a good process. And again, it only happens because he is open to, the input.
Has there ever been any sort of jam sessions that have turned into writing sessions?
Generally not. Sometimes what Eve will do is, so Eve likes to, we're all control freaks. So Eve likes to control what he's writing and what he's singing and so forth.
That wouldn't cause a power struggle.
But look, it's okay. We haven't killed each other yet. But no,
yes,
I will
being
say
the key word there, I think.
Not yet.
And I
will say that one thing that does happen, and it doesn't happen all the time, but one thing that does happen is Eve may come into the practice room and he might say, play along to this, and he'll start playing a riff.
Yep.
That riff is obviously something that he's working on. So, and he sees the energy that comes from it, So sometimes he'll go away and work on that, but that does happen. But we don't physically write there and then, no.
Okay, that's cool. And it's an interesting dynamic because it doesn't evoke the sense of that it is you're just a supporting band. No, you're very much all equal members and you've all got input, but there's still that dynamic that there is still, it seems to be very, very defined roles almost to the point where it comes together to create something that's a bit bigger than what you could individually bring to the table.
Mate, that's really well said. I think that's exactly what happens. I mean, three, pretty large and strong, in their own way personalities. And that, I suppose, is the beauty. Even though we cheated on the album, and it must be said that there is bass on the album, and we had some beautiful people play bass for us, and we can talk about that. But the thing about a three-piece band is, and you look historically at great bands, that are three-piece, it gives you that room and space, and that's part of what we do. And
sonically speaking, too, you talk about giving each other space. There is a lot of really good drum work in there. I have to say, well done. There's just a lot of furious playing in there. It really rhythmically, I dare not say complex, but a lot of rhythmic, a lot of going on rhythmically, and at the same time, a lot of really good rhythmic violin playing, both in the background and when there's these instrumental breaks. So there really is room to shine for all three of you.
And that's Eve writes those songs. He traditionally plays very unusual, riffs, if you like, and chord progressions. And obviously there's also that timing structure that changes all the time. You know what I mean? And then, of course, then you put the Lil understood the brief from day one. Like, Lil sees herself as a violinist, not a fiddle player. And so there's a certain structure that has to be there to fill the sound up with a three-piece, and so that works really well. And then, of course, with the drums, because Eve's doing a riff all the time and literally playing bass, and it gives me the freedom to, pretend that I'm someone I'm not. So it gives me the freedom to play some, odd times and lots of cymbal work to fill up. It's a melodic thing. So,
your arms definitely get a good workout by the sounds of it.
Yeah, they do.
I was going to say, let's drop some names here. Who are you pretending to be? Come on.
Oh, look, from my point of view, I mean, my heroes are Steve Copeland from The Police. I mean, 100%. Yes. Stevie Gadd.
All the way through, yeah?
Yeah, so, and Stevie Gadd and stuff like that are guys that I really, Jeff Porcaro, I mean, they're guys that I hero worship. But, I mean, I'm not them, obviously. I'm far from them. But it's just always nice. And, of course, Carter Beaufort from Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah.
Look, Eve, we do. It's an absolute. It's absolutely humbling that people even mention it. We are so far from Dave Matthews Band. It's not funny. However, a lot of people, sort of say, that reminds us, whether it's the violin, whether it's Eve, and his riffs and his, singer-songwriter business. But a lot of people sort of say, oh, it's a bit Dave Matthews Band, which is. We're nothing like them, but it's nice that people have that reference.
Exactly. Yeah. It's always interesting when people come up with comparisons that you didn't really expect. It's
exactly. Yeah.
Now, we're going to play one of the other. It's another one of the singles from the album too, I believe. In My Arms.
Yes.
Is that right? I want to chat a little bit about that because it's got a much more. Not slower, but it's got more of an emotive core in terms of how it progresses through the song.
Yes.
Like it really vamps and climaxes almost. One of those ones that climaxes more than a lot of the other ones on the album. So maybe if you could go into a bit what Eve was thinking when he wrote it, if he shared.
So it is about suspense, that song, as far as music goes, and the violin, the crescendo. And what we actually did was we changed the song and brought that big melodic solo right at the start of the song. So that and then there's this hectic chorus, that Eve's playing on guitar and I'm playing crazy stuff on the drums. In My Arms is essentially about you shouldn't be here in my arms. If you keep coming here, I'm going to keep taking you to bed, but there's nothing for us. I'm not taking you to the dinner and we're not going to the movies and we're not having babies together. But if you keep coming here.
I think that going to the movies things is a bit redundant this year. Just saying.
So
this obviously was written before this year, that song.
Exactly. I think he wrote this a while ago. But I mean, the whole, that's the crux of the song is that you shouldn't be here in my arms because if you keep turning up here, yes, we're going to go to bed, but that's where it stops and starts. So this isn't working. And there is definitely a suspense in the song and there's definitely that hecticness of the verses. So it's a beautiful song. We really like it. It's been one that we did right from word go.
Yeah. I was going to ask because it is sort of towards the middle of the album, this one, whereas Crazy's right at the end. Did the recording happen in order? So was it dead? The order that you recorded in?
No, it did not. We very thoughtfully retrospect put the album in order. But I, to be honest, I'd have a piece of paper somewhere the way they were recorded. But the album, as you see it, was not recorded in that order.
Interesting. I'm definitely happy to chat more about more in detail about the processes behind the songs and that as well. I guess wherever the conversation takes us, Gerard. But right now, we're going to treat you to this next song, In My Arms, off the brand new album, Thank You Pain by August River Band. Guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be back real soon.
bodies to this meeting, out of time. tied our bodies to this beating and out of time. Our hearts are beating. You shouldn't be here in my arms, kissing my soul and breathing my body and losing control. In my arms, you're kissing my soul and breathing my body and losing control. In my arms, kissing my soul, breathing my body, losing control. And in my arms, kissing my soul, breathing my body, losing control. Fighting for your blue sky.
Mamma mia, that's the spiciest song of all. It's oh yes, welcome back, guys, to the chaos that is Bar Talk. Episode 25, actually. I don't know if we've mentioned that yet, but the big quarter century all the way here with Gerard from August River Band, and that was their song "In My Arms." One of the recent singles off the album. And you were mentioning before too, off air, that that's been one of the more popular tracks off the record.
It's a track that we've played basically from the start. You know, it was one of the first songs that we worked on together, and it's been a popular song. You know, people enjoy it and usually sing along, and obviously there's that break "In My Arms," and people like to sort of have a sing. So it's been a great song. We really enjoy playing.
Sing-alongs always are like a top rate for any live performance.
Correct.
You got to have the sing-along song. I think it's a requirement as a live band to have at least one.
You kind of feel that you might be getting that hook into them, you know, that hook that we all search for. So it's a good thing.
So you mentioned that was one of the earlier songs that you've put together as a band. Were a lot of the songs off the record like that, where you had gotten audience feedback, I suppose, for want of a better term, or were some of them like brand newies, untried, untested when they went to when you went in the studio?
Well, look, it should be said that, you know, Eve has many songs ready to go. I mean, we potentially have another 2 albums to go. So, you know, the process,
slow down, cowboy.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see you in 2024 by the looks of it.
It won't be happening for a while. We'll recover from this one. But what happens is Eve has written some of these songs many years ago, and some of them are current. Some of the songs Eve wrote, 10, 5, 6 years ago, and then has rehashed them. Some of them are new. On the album itself, just roughly speaking, and don't hold a gun at my head, there's probably Cupid's 45 was a newer song. I'm just trying to think what else. Most of the other stuff was older, and hence the reason why we migrated towards those songs to be on the debut album. Because we do have other songs and we have newer songs, but we kind of thought that we should, what's the word? Once we flip the card, we should, work the card for a while, if that makes sense. So
you want to give the people what they expect from you what sounds like you're very much always been that live performance band.
We very much are, and that's a big point to be made, is that August River Band, our sole thing is playing live. That's where we believe we want to take you on a roller coaster. So when you come and see us, you cry, you laugh, you dance, you clap, and we take you through all of this emotion because that's where we think our strength is.
Hopefully don't cough. That's the one thing.
Don't cough.
Yeah.
Don't cough. One of these days we will get down to Melbourne. But so it's been incredibly frustrating.
Not if you cough, you won't.
Exactly. But the bottom line is that most of these songs, not all, but most of them were songs that, as a collaborative, as the three of us, even though Eve had them for some time, they were sort of more of these songs that have been with us on our journey for that 2.5 years. And we just felt it was important to get them, put them to bed, I suppose, is the right word, make sure that we've covered that road and that, we've left it in a good state. And I believe we've done that. I know that we are very proud of the album. We're incredibly proud of it. And we're also excited and proud about what's to come. But I'm glad that we've done the journey with these songs. And because we've been literally living with these songs now for, like intensely, that is, for the last 12 months or more. And, we haven't been doing a lot of, development on new stuff, which we're about to,
Because you mentioned how proud you are about the album, and absolutely, that's definitely something I would be if this was my album. I'd be very happy with it. I was going to say it's props to the production on there, because there is a sort of a challenge involved when you're going in and go, all right, let's do this live in the studio. It's not a case of, we'll add this in post or we'll do this and that later on. It really is a case of, for most things and aspects of it, you've got to get it right there and then. So, I mean, props to Paulie B for nailing it on the head.
So we're surrounded with beautiful people. We're very lucky, and a very good friend of mine called Tony McCall, who is a drummer of some notoriety and fame, and he's a very good friend of mine. And he said to me in our journey when he was listening, he said, "You need to go and see Paulie B." And Paulie B, for those who don't or do know, so Paulie is a producer at Yamanui Studios, which is on the Sunshine Coast, which is a beautiful part of the world here in Queensland. And then, of course, Paulie himself plays in Beautiful Girls. He plays with Bobby Arlou, and he's also was in George many years ago. So some pretty serious bands there. So he brings a lot of experience and basically gorgeousness. He's a pure musician, and he lives and breathes roots music, and he was the perfect fit for us.
Was there anything that surprised you about him? Did he bring something to the table that you weren't expecting, or maybe gave you some piece of advice that was something you hadn't considered?
I think that in general terms, and by the way, this isn't said with any sort of, it's said with humility, is that because we'd worked so hard and because we'd lived with these songs for 2.5 years, Paulie didn't really do a lot of producing up front, if that makes sense. He let us do our thing, and he certainly had some input, there's no doubt. And look, I have to make this very clear. I mean, we did record the album in an hour, and that is a fact. There are some overdubs in regards to, there's some extra violin lines, there's some backing vocals, there's obviously some percussive work. Paulie played bass on the album, and we also had OJ Newcomb, who is the bass player with John Butler. He's done some work with John Butler Trio. He played some double bass. In note, there's a few songs, but one in particular was Mr. Sky, and just did a gorgeous job of that. So they were or produced or overdubbed or whatever way you want to look at it. But we couldn't have done it without Paulie, and he did sort of do a few little, if I can use the words, sort of hums or ambience or some little variations on some intros, etc. Hello B is one. So that was a really nice touch, and we couldn't have done it without. And it was just a wonderful experience. It really was.
Yeah, I think there's only one point at which I could tell when I was listening that that effect was added in post. There's like I think it's like a phase function or something on the drums.
And that's exactly right.
But apart from that, you're right. Everything must be really subtle because I couldn't pick it up listening.
And this is where his artistry is that to respect, and that's why it was so beautiful working with him, is because he respected that it is a live. Do you know what I mean? Like our vibe is live, and it's not to be overproduced. I mean, we're a musical band. We don't. Not that I'm saying this is wrong or right, by the way, but there's not a lot of synth fills and backbeats and drum machine. It's us, and so he walked this beautiful tightrope. And again, he got it. He understood it. And you know what was better even still was that it was so nice that Paulie came and played bass on our launch show.
And you were mentioning that. That's cool. And it's a good way to get him involved as a producer because he's someone you want there at the gig when you're launching the album.
Correct. And we've been fortunate enough, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but, we've got an upcoming gig down the Gold Coast at the Gold Coast Roots Festival at Hodder, and Paulie's going to pull in again with us on that, show. So that is just so beautiful that he has, I suppose, bought into it or believes in it or whatever, that he's coming and supporting us because it's massive for us. It gives us some kudos and we love, being around him and playing music with him.
Speaking of, I was going to say, if I'm going to draw a comparison here, laugh it off at me if you feel like, but he's really like your Pat Smear, isn't he? He's like the fourth member that technically isn't a member.
That's exactly what it is, and
for those of you, of course, Pat Smear being the guy that played the second guitar in Nirvana, but technically wasn't part of the trio.
Exactly.
Which is the only reason why I think he's now part of the Foo Fighters. I think Dave Grohl is trying to forgive him because he never got the chance to be added.
Exactly. But no, look, and listen, there is something that moving forward, having a bass, full stop, whether it be Paulie B, but having bass, we've debated since day one. And we've decided, along the way that no, we'll leave it as 3. It's hard enough as 3. We'll leave it as 3. But we've never, what's the word?
Don't want too many people to split the booty between. That's the real reason. Let's get to the bottom.
Do you know what he said? We're all crazy fuckers, and we don't. It's complicated enough, but we've never, ever, ever said no. There's no bass player. In fact, on the contrary, we know that the bass adds just a beautiful, texture to our painting. So, in the future, hopefully, whether it be part time or full time, there will be bass.
Cool.
Let there be bass.
Let's talk. Let's talk a bit more about the live shows because you mentioned you've got an upcoming show that's a bit different to your album launch, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We're Friday week or whatever, 24th, 23rd, something like that.
Hold on, because this will be out. Yeah, this on Friday the 23rd. Yes.
Yeah, that's not this Friday, but next Friday. Yes.
No, actually, it will be as of release, folks. It'll be 2 days away. Friday the 23rd, so which is actually less than a week away as of recording. So
okay,
you might want to double check your diary just to make sure there's nothing. It's like, oh, I've got a manicurist appointment. Sorry, guys, can't make the gig. Got to get my beard trimmed. I've got to get my beard oiled.
Friday the 23rd, we're playing a little gig at in the Valley in Brisbane, and it's called the Barbershop, and it's a little cool thing that a guy sort of does a bit of a recording studio type setup, limited numbers, just a really intimate show. So we're going to go and do that, which will be a bit of fun.
Speaking of beard oiling, you don't have to move that appointment at all. You can get it done at the same time, just in between drumming. There's just this random roadie just like trimming your beard. Got a little bucket underneath you.
They can give the old 4KZ a Dad and Dave and trim the beard up at the same time while I'm hitting the drums. But look, it'll be fun. It'll be a Friday night. It'll be 9:30 at night. It'll be vibing. The Valley's always a fun place to be. And then
The Valley's pretty much the music epicenter of Brisbane, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And, like everywhere, it's taken a hit, obviously, but it's back and it's working really hard to, all the venues are working really hard to get it all happening again. And it is, it's a good thing. So, but the Valley's a beautiful place for music. It's the happening thing.
And is that will there still be tickets available for that one?
Mate, I believe it's first in, best dressed type affair.
Oh, yeah. So rock up. So if you're in Brizzy, what you're doing this Friday? Fucking hell, you guys can actually go and watch people play live. So you've got no excuse to go down there.
That's exactly right.
Go and get your hair cut. Grab a whiskey. Apparently, there's a barber shop down here. A friend who cares a lot about his mullet or whatever he's growing these days. They give you a complimentary whiskey. You pay like $50 for the haircut.
Yeah.
But he goes, you get a nice glass of single malt.
Beautiful.
So it's worth it. Apparently,
happy days.
Haircuts and whiskey go well. I don't know why, because I was assuming you get a few follicles in the glass, but.
Get a bit messy, but who cares? It's alcohol.
So what's the venue and the time? Sorry, just so before we forget.
That's silly of me.
Quickly checks
the
his
barber
notes.
shop, but I'm trying to think. They do go under another guise, which is disgusting, and I should know. But
go to the anyway. August River Band socials. It's all on your socials, isn't it?
You know what? Facebook, I know it's Instagram, but Facebook's our big things, as is Instagram. It'll be on there. It'll be advertised. Please go and check out our Facebook page. And all of that will be there.
and Facebook, Facegram or Twitter Talk or whatever it's called. It's all there.
So that'll be fun. And then so that'll be a really nice little, intimate session for us to do. I'm actually looking forward to that. I think we all are. And then we get back on a big stage down at the Gold Coast on the Sunday, the 29th of November. So that's the Gold Coast Roots Festival, and Hotter, which is Home of the Arts, are hosting that. And I think there's 1,000 cap on that. It might be more. And that's sort of an outdoor, they've got a sound shell and it's all beautiful. There's the Hanlon Brothers and Tawana Cartel and Fat Picnic are playing. So really looking forward to that on a big stage. Be wonderful.
Tell us quickly about your lineup too for the show this Friday, because you mentioned before that there's going to be a bit of a switcheroo.
Yes. So it should be said that with a heavy heart that Lil, who was a part of the album, who did all of the album, Lil left the band earlier in the year through the whole COVID thing. So not only did we use the time to keep moving forward, but we then had to deal with, getting a new violinist organised. So we do have a guy, Gareth, who's come in and sits in now, and he's just gorgeous. He's just amazing. And we're very blessed to have him working with us. But we also have a young man, young Ben, who's a good young man. He's studying to be a doctor. And so he's sort of sitting in as well, and he's sort of, cutting his teeth with us, and it's going really well. So he's coming to do the show at the barber shop for his first time.
He's a genius.
He is.
Just the classic, got some fancy degree on the side, plays violin in a folk band.
Brings the IQ of the rest of the
pulling
band.
The old Art Garfunkel. Oh, yeah, I'm an architect.
That's it.
Playing music's just my side career.
Ben's been wonderful. He answered a bit of a plea, came in. Yeah. He was very raw, incredibly raw. And what he's achieved in a short period of time, we're really happy with. And so I'm excited for him, because next Friday,
this Friday
at the barbershop, this Friday, he's going to sit in for the first time live. And,
that's cool.
Yeah. I'll just be saying one thing to him before we start.
Which is?
Don't fuck it up.
Or you're out.
But and then down the coast for Hotter, we're going to pull in Gareth and Gareth Muse, and also Paulie B is going to come and play bass down there for us as well, which is awesome. So that's the same lineup that we had at the Tivoli for our launch. So happy days.
So what date is the festival again?
29th of November, Sunday.
That's a Sunday. Oh, yeah, I was about to say, Jinx.
Yeah.
Sunday. And I'm guessing like an afternoon sort of thing.
It is, mate. I think the door gates open at about 3:30.
Nice.
So she's an afternoon session, few beers. It's on the green there as well.
Okay.
So you buy a ticket.
They haven't forgotten to water the lawn. It isn't going to be on the brown.
Well, I hope it's not. But, I mean, it's an unusual setup maybe it's not unusual these days. You buy a plot of grass and 4 people can sit there. That's your ticket.
Yes.
And they have, food and wine and all. It'll be beautiful.
They've been getting creative around the world. We've had car gigs, I think, in Lithuania. UK, I think they did cages. They're like little platforms, which I think is cool. And then what was the other one I'm trying to think of?
We got to get
the apartments. Did you see the one with the apartments? And they played in the centre?
Yeah, that's it. So, you just got to become a little bit, left of centre in these times.
Yes. Got to get a little crazy.
Exactly.
Thanks. We'll mention obviously all the socials and what's happening next. But, of course, thank you so much, Gerard. It's been awesome. What are the, apart from obviously the shows that you've got upcoming, lucky you, you've obviously got plans in that for, I'm guessing, more releases in the future. Fingers crossed.
Mate, well, absolutely. So, mate, we've been, smashing the whole social media and the whole album thing. Mate, we will now promote the album in the next, month or two. We'll go and do, the Gold Coast Festival, which we're really excited about. And we can't wait to be there. It's what we want. That's what we do. And then, mate, we're going to go away and have a little break over Chrissy New Year. We're just going to restock, take a big deep breath. And then I think what we'll do is early next year, we'll start collaborating again. Eve's got a whole heap of beautiful songs there. We'll start working on all of that. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we're looking at booking agents at the moment. And our big thing is we want to get out and play some live gigs, some festivals. We weren't able to tour. We were hoping to tour the album. And obviously that hasn't happened. So, we might try and develop a bit of that stuff early next year and try and get out and about if restrictions, etc., are lifted. But exciting times, and at the moment, it's just important for us to sort of bask in the album, enjoy it. And I think it's been a lot of hard work, and we just need to, if you like, relax and enjoy it.
Exactly. Yeah, enjoy it while it lasts, because it's all fun and games. Is the intention, I just want to know really quickly, is the intention to potentially change things up in terms of how you record or the sound that you bring to the next release whenever that does come out?
I don't think so. I think I know that I'm really, we're really happy and there's been an evolution in the band with our new stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. As far as the way we record and so on, I think we're at peace with what we've done. I mean, I believe the songs will evolve in itself because we are evolving as a band always, but the recording style and so forth, I think we'll stick with. We're happy.
Cool. Before we do play the next track, let's quickly run through the socials of your band, which we did mention twice, but didn't specifically mention where we can find you, because we're like, let's go to the social media pages, find out about the show. Like, where's the pages, Daniel? I'm lost in the facelands.
Yeah. So our big go is Facebook. We're very active on Facebook.
Yep.
Instagram is obviously there always. There's a little bit of stuff on YouTube, etc., but Facebook is our really big one, to be quite frank. So if you want to follow our fortunes, that's the place to find us.
Sweet. And what's it all tagged under? Because that's the
August River Band.
August River Band. I doubt if there's another August River Band out there.
No, there's not. And of course, listen, it would be remiss of me not to say that. Please, if you like the stuff, please go to Spotify, Apple iTunes, etc., and please download our album and enjoy it, because we're really proud of it, and we hope you guys enjoy.
I was going to say, do you have any merch or anything like that people can go and buy?
Absolutely, we've got a whole heap of merch, and again, that's through the Facebook. Get in contact with us. There's a heap of stuff there. It's great. Nice.
Go and if you like what you hear, guys, go and best thing you can do to support artists at the moment, buy merch. because
Well
they
said.
get a little dollar or two out of it.
Well said, Daniel.
Gerard, thank you once again. It's been a pleasure. An absolute blast.
Thanks for having us, mate. Really appreciate it. Really do.
When you do that national tour, wink, wink, please let us know when you're down the Melbs way.
100%. We'll have a beer.
We'll have a beverage and have a little I'm so keen to see you guys with the dynamic that whatever I guess you bring down here eventually. Awesome. I'd love to see that in person. So that'd be awesome.
Thank you very much, mate.
Let's chat about the next song the song we're gonna leave on. This one hasn't been released as a single, and I always like to go deep cut for it for the last song. But "Hallowed Be" is what we're going to play in a sec.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about this one, if you could.
"Hallowed Be," very high energy song, a very personal song, and a pretty dark part of Eve's lifetime, his little journey. And we always open our shows up with "Hallowed Be." It's a very powerful song. It has a complete change of rhythm in it. Has two sort of separate time signatures, and which is kind of our thing. But a very strong song. Very emotive.
Nice, and I hope you enjoy it just as much as I guess I did listening to it. And thanks again. I guess let's not waste any more time and play the bloody thing. Gerard, do you want to take us out? What are we listening to?
This is Jared from August River Band. Please enjoy "Hallowed Be."
Tore the paintings from the wall, watch the whiskey stain them all. Fire burning all night long, taste of tears, all hope had gone. Hallowed be thy scorching flame, hands of fire that loves your name. I bring my offering, stained with my blood. Thank you, pain, I love you for this flood. Chasing demons through the night, never seen my fears in flight. On my knees, my prayers unkind. Pain you that you love this life. Hallowed be thy scorching flame, hands of fire, the Lord is your name. I bring my offering, stained with my blood. Thank you, pain, I love you for this flood. Hallowed be thy scorching fame, hands of fire that loves your name. I bring my offering, stained with my blood. Thank you, pain. I love you for this flood.
Hello sexy, you are listening to Bar Talk on AMR.
Hey, welcome back, folks, to the Bar Talk Podcast, episode 25. Hope you've enjoyed that little tipple of a song. Baby, please, it was good. But baby, please don't go anywhere, because that was called, you couldn't guess it, Baby, Please, the new single off the English Rain's debut album, Echoes of You, which is out now. So go and check it out after the interview. But before you go and check out anything else, I'm very lucky to have with me on the line the co-partner in crime of said musical act on the phone with me right now. All the way from Brisbane. So please give him a round of your utmost attention, Steve from the English Rain. How you going, Steve?
G'day, Daniel. I'm good, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on the show.
No worries. Thank you for coming on. And first off, congratulations on the record.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming, but we're really happy with how it turned out. It's exciting times.
I was going to say that was what I was going to say. It's a long time coming because I was having a little read through everything. I guess let's get straight into it. English Rain, it's a duet between yourself and Neil, who's sort of the other creative of the band. But you guys have been together for yonks, haven't you?
Yeah. We met back in the early to mid 80s. We were both playing ended up being in the same bands, playing covers and originals. And over time, we actually ended up in a couple of different bands. But as they broke up, we kind of went our separate ways, but stayed in touch from a writing point. So we usually write the songs and send them to Neil, and we did that long distance for a long period of time because I live in Brisbane and Neil lives in Perth. So over that period of time, I think we accumulated something like 100 plus songs, and we thought, well, it's about time to put some of these down on record. And here we have our first record after, 35 years.
Better late than never, as they always say.
Absolutely.
I mean, with the amount of time, the amount of experience, I guess, that's under both of your collective belts, you say you wrote 100 songs. Is that in total since you met, or is that just over just a particular period of time?
No, that was probably, over the course of that period of time. Since we first met, it's actually more than 100. I think it's up, around 140. There were certainly periods in that time where I would be really prolific. There was times I'd send Neil, 2 or 3 songs in a day. And then other times where, one of the songs on the record, as an example, We See the Same Stars, came out of a really bad breakup, and I didn't write for 10 years after that. I put the guitar down and just didn't write. So, it's not like I was, writing every day, every week for that period of time. There was periods of time where I just didn't pick the guitar up at all.
Have you found that there is value, though, in taking times off thinking about creative pursuits? Because, a lot of musicians, I suppose, with less experience than what you might have, might be under the impression that, oh, God, I've got to write it now, otherwise it'll never come out. So do you find that there is that value in stepping back for a bit?
Yeah, I think that it is good to just have a break, particularly if you're working on a song that you're struggling with. There's a couple of different schools of thought. Some people are like, just kind of forge on and make sure you finish it. Whereas I sometimes think it's better to kind of go away for a little period of time and then come back with like fresh ears. Because when you're really trying, sometimes that really slows the process down, or it does for me anyway. I find more often than not, I do tend to write the song kind of in 1 or 2 sittings. So it's generally pretty quick. But those ones that, I've kind of got stuck on, in some cases might have taken a year or 2 to finish, where I just couldn't get my head around how I wanted it to sound or those sort of things. So, coming back after such a period of time, you've kind of forgotten about some of the blockages that you had. And you can come at it completely fresh.
So do you have like the locked box at home under lock and key? It's like unfinished songs, and you just go through them every 6 months and go, well, that was shit, or, oh, that's actually not too bad.
I do that even with the finished songs.
Okay, so have there been many cases where you've gone back and reworded or, reworked the musical elements or the arrangements completely on what you thought was a finished song?
Yeah, on some of them, even, on this record, probably there's a couple of things that change slightly. I'm quite a lazy lyricist by my own admission.
In what aspect? Like, using fancy, not being worried about using fancy words or just first word that comes to mind sort of thing?
Sometimes it is, yeah. It's that first word and you go, well, it fits. And, you know, in your head you go, that's just a placeholder. But then you finish the song and go, yeah, maybe it's not. Maybe it can just stay there. And I'm really aware that I'm lazy like that. So, you know, I try to not do it as much. You know, on this record, I think on one of the tracks, Miss You, there was 2 verses. And I thought, that's so lazy. I could at least write another verse. And I did. So, you know, that made you know, there's about probably a 15-year gap in from when the first 2 verses were written to the last. And yeah, but that's okay.
It's called providing a perspective. Just the 15 years of review to go, well, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't the dumpster fire that the relationship was made out to be at the time.
Well, you know, I try to finish most of the songs, you know, in 1 or 2 sessions. And
How often does that happen out of 10?
I reckon probably 8 or 9. I think, you know, most of I think just about every song on that record, was finished really quickly, you know, in terms of the substance of the song, not necessarily the recording, but, you know, here's all of the words, here's the music, the melody, I know what I want it to sound like. So, you know, from that point of view, I reckon 8 or 9 out of 10.
So you say you're lazy, but I mean that's not too lazy. You're focused enough to get songs done at once. I was going to say, do you find that you gravitate once you've finished your songs? Do you gravitate more to the ones you completed in one sitting because of the way you like how it's turned out?
Yeah, I think it's nice to have that sense of accomplishment. And I sit down whenever I write a song. I have, you know, kind of a few things that, you know, go through my head. I always try and sit down and write a single, or, you know, that's my thinking, because, you know, traditionally in the old days, the singles were the best songs on the record. So if I kind of set myself that goal of, I want this to be a song that people can sing along to, that's catchy or whatever, then I think that's a good bar to start off with. Now, you know, when you finish the song, sometimes you might go, that's not a single, but it's still a solid song.
Yeah, yeah. So
that's certainly one of the things that I aim for when I write.
I was gonna. Sorry, no, keep going.
No, I was just going to say that, and that's kind of the aim that I have.
Yeah.
In those scenarios.
I just want to actually touch on something you mentioned there. It's like, back in the day, singles are more to serve the purpose of being the top tracks off the record. So have you found that has moved away from that in your experience?
Yeah, I think so. Look, it probably wasn't even necessarily the case back then. It's just that singles were, you know, I guess singles back in those days were these great pop hits. But one of my favourite songs, arguably my favourite song, is Rain by the Beatles. Now, it was never an A-side single. I think it was on the back of Paperback Writer or something like that. But it was still a fantastic song. And, you know, the Beatles did a lot of that as well. You know, they had these great songs that in some cases weren't even on albums. You know, things like She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand didn't even appear on their records. You know, they were actual just singles only. So I guess it's just that old school thinking that, you know, a 2.5 or 3 minute pop song, you know, is kind of that's the upper echelon that I think of. Wow, you know, they're all those great singles that you can think of through the, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. These days, you know, I don't hear as much of that. And, you know, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this record, because I like guitar pop songs. I like things that you can sing along to, that somebody else can hear and pick up a guitar and learn themselves and start playing. I used to do that with Hoodoo Guru's records. You know, you knew Hoodoo Guru's record had come out, you know, I'd take the day off school, go buy the record, and then spend the day working out those songs and go, okay, now I want to play them. Whereas, you know, modern pop music, that's not, it's much more difficult to do that because of the, you know, I guess, the more electronic nature of it. You know, there's less guitars and things like that. And I love guitars.
Have you found, though, that in recent years your tastes have changed in terms of your music? Because obviously you can tell that there is that big Beatles influence both in the music and a lot of the imagery of the band, especially the logo as well, and a lot of the imagery on the front cover of the album. I'm just looking, a lot of Beatles symbolism there. But has there been that sort of change? Has there been that sort of preference change with your styles as you've moved in recent years?
Yeah, look, I still love all of that classic stuff, and you know, the album cover is that homage to, you know, the Beatles, the Paul Weller, the Jam, the Monkees, you know, all of those kind of classic bands.
Yeah, the 60s, what is it, the British Invasion bands.
The British Invasion, you know, Britpop,
Yep.
you know, I loved Britpop when that came along. And, you know, as much as I still listen to that, I listen to probably more Americana now than anything else. You know, people like Ryan Adams, Jason Isbell, Drive By Truckers, Band of Horses is probably, you know, one of my favourite bands. But again, the common theme in all of those is that they write great melodies. You know, any song that I can sing along to and you know, I feel resonates with me is really important. And that factor fits all of those bands going back to the 60s. You know, they wrote a song that you could sing along to, would, you know, make you feel something, whether that's happy, sad, whatever, doesn't matter. And in some cases, you would think that that song was being written for you because, you know, it spoke to you about what was going in your life or a breakup and that's where music, I think, really connects with people. And that's what I've always wanted to do. Now, whether you achieve that, you don't know. You know, there's a classic old interview where this homeless guy says to John Lennon, "Oh, you know, you're writing these songs for me." And Lennon goes, "I don't even know you, mate. I write these for me. If you get something out of it, that's a bonus." And it's very true. But
Very
you know,
Lennon-esque. Just doesn't
very
acknowledge the other person.
Yeah, very much so. But I think that, you know, that's where songwriting for me is that's where the magic is. If you can just connect with someone and they go, you know, when I heard that song, you know, whoever the song, it made me think of this time in my life where I went through that, and that's the magic of it for me.
Let's stroke the ego for a sec, seeing as we're talking about Lennon. Have you ever had the Lennon moment? So we'll call that the Lennon moment, where it's like some random, don't know him, got no connection, going, that really, really, you know, hit me somewhere, hit me where it hurts, you know, made me feel something I haven't felt in years. Has there ever been a particular moment where that's happened to you?
Yeah, since the record's come out, and this is what I'm most proud about with the record is that, firstly, people don't seem to have a favourite. They seem to like all different songs at different times, depending on how many times they've listened to the record. And quite a few people have sort of said to me, you know, I went through a relationship and Miss You is exactly, you know, that's exactly what happened. And then there's like Before the Dark, which is a song about my cousin who took his own life. And, you know, people have reached out about that and said, you know, I hadn't really thought, you know, about what you were saying in that song.
Yeah.
And it made me do this. So, yeah, and that's I think, it's what I want. I want, you know, people to, not to go, oh, I love this song, but to go, hey, your song made me think about this in a different way, or it made me remember that maybe things weren't just as awful or as horrible. And, you know, going back to your dumpster fire comment, maybe it wasn't, you know, as bad as I thought at the time, and maybe we still have a connection and, you know, that sort of thing.
You mentioned something, Bear, about your friend or whatever. Obviously, mental health, really important. Guys, as always, call 13 11 14 if you ever just want someone to chat to for Lifeline. So it sounds like there have been a lot of experiences go into it. So these are songs, though, that you had played live before you went in to record them, or are some of them ones that really hadn't seen the light of day?
No, none of them had, to be honest. Because Neil and I traditionally, because we were living on other sides of Australia, we don't really gig. So our thing is more that we just want to make records. So and that's quite a fast process for us. Now that we've done the first one, you know, we're already tracking the second record as we speak. So no, they didn't sort of get that live, I guess, you know where you kind of get that vibe from the audience. People are into this or they're not, or so no, we didn't get to do that, which is, you know, unfortunate, but we certainly played different parts of them to people just to kind of get their perspective and you know, their take on things. But, you know, again, first and foremost, I write for myself. So if there's a song on there, it's because that's how I wanted it to sound. It's because that's what I wanted to say. And again, hopefully it does connect with people out there.
So obviously you and Neil have managed to really build a connection, especially if you've been living interstate and that. But what do you find works in terms of making sure you can keep that spark alive, even though you're thousands of Ks apart? What usually works for you?
Apart. Absolutely, living 1,000 Ks apart.
So you find that if you were together, you'd be sick of each other. Is that where this is going?
Well, I think it's possible. You see so many bands. Eventually, it's just that being around each other for so long and for so much time, it does have an effect. We're vastly different personalities. Neil's got the patience of a saint, and he needs to because I'm quite. No, I want it to sound like this, and can we change this, and can we do that? And he's great because he can make it happen, and because he's got the capabilities from a recording and playing point of view, but his personality is very much, look, at the end of the day, you wrote the song, so you know what you want it to sound like. So Neil has been over in Brisbane for the last sort of 4 months while we recorded the record, but he came over for some other reasons. But that's while he was here, we did the record. But we haven't even.
Go on. I don't care what you're here for. Let's put a record together.
Exactly. So don't think you're coming over to Brisbane and we're not putting the record out. But even while he's been here. Outside of the studio, we've probably only spent, a few days together, even just working on songs. Ideally, I would have liked to have done that more, but it hasn't worked out that way. I think, like I said, we've known each other for so long now, it's kind of warts and all. And, I'm probably more of a pain to put up with than Neil is. So, kudos to him for keeping it going for so long.
So really soon, we're actually going to go to a break and play one of the other tracks off the album, Steve, which is going to be Just Think of You. Now, this one, totally, really good example of like how many different styles you consciously brought into the album. Because if you thought everything was going to be like Baby Please, guys, Baby Please, get a grip. It's like, it's the English rain. These guys know everything. No, but this one, an absolute slapping blues track, this one. This one's totally, real 360, which I find that you get a bit of that throughout the album. But tell us a bit about this track, I guess, where you were when you wrote it, maybe about going to maybe what it was about at the time.
Yeah, it's one of the older tracks on the record, and I was listening to blues at the time.
Yes, everybody had a blues. Everybody that was in the 80s had a blues phase.
Stage. Yeah,
Bloody Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's it. I'll blame him.
Well, I was going real old school. I was listening to Robert Johnson and and Lightning Hopkins and all of that. I got right into all of that, and I always thought, okay, because most of the blues songs generally are in a major key. And I always thought...
Which is really bizarre, considering... I guess it makes sense how old blues is as a genre, but it's so weird how like blues is usually like complain, oh, my life's so hard, but it's not in a minor key.
Exactly, and that's what made me think, well, there's nothing sadder than a minor key, and E minor is a pretty sad chord, so, off we go. And it was, I just wanted to see, what it'd sound like. It's a pretty straight up and down blues song.
But straight up and down blues is always fun to go back to. It's never not fun. This is probably why it's lasted the test of time and why it's still a format that just works. That you can always, you can overload on it, sure, but if you give it a good enough time, you can always go back to it. And blues is always fun to listen to and play too.
Well, when we did it originally, it was probably a bit more straight up. And then when I was doing some recording prior to going into the studio, I just wanted to kind of try a few different things. And so actually moved it into almost a bit more of a shuffle, like a Texas shuffle, a slower Texas shuffle rather than just straight up blues rock. And that kind of changed the feel of it a little bit. And at the time, a guy I'd known for quite a while reached out to me and said, do you have anything to do with the English rain? And I said, yeah, I'm in the English rain. And
there's your Lennon moment we were talking about before.
Yeah, exactly. And he's in a band called Cheap Fakes, who are a fantastic Brisbane band. And I said to him, mate, actually, I've got a couple of songs that, I haven't got anyone to sing them at this stage. Would you give them a crack? And he said, absolutely. And so he actually did the vocals on Just Think of You and just nailed it. He also does Swamp Girl on the record as well, which...
Yeah, the two thumping rock and roll tracks, yeah.
Really, yeah. Like on Swamp Girl, he kind of sounds like Justin Hawkins from The Darkness had a love child with Randy Savage, the Macho Man wrestler. And,
that's a mix.
And it worked. So... and, we in a perfect world, we would have loved to have had a gospel choir coming in and singing the singing back at him.
Social distancing. They're too hard to hire. They're probably in some union. It's too much work.
Too hard. Exactly. But Cassie did a fantastic version. She did the return vocals, and Jason Milhouse, the producer, did the solos on the record, and they came out fantastically. And and
I was going to ask who did the guitar, who did the lead guitar on that one.
Yeah, well, he did it over. I know we were actually sitting there one night, and he'd had a few beers, and he had a crack at it.
Yep.
And
did you find he played better the more he drank? Is he one of those people?
Well, he said if I spoke to anyone, I had to say that he was completely drunk, and that's how good he is.
Okay. I see what you mean. Wink, wink.
Yeah. wink, wink, nod, nod. But the first solo, was actually probably a bit more rock. It still worked perfectly. And then he said, about a week or so later, he goes, I had another crack at that solo. And of course, it's much more bluesy. And sort of going back to what you were saying about the genres, when you were saying before, where does music sit now? I think it's hard to get people to listen to whole albums, Daniel. People's time for one.
If it's longer than a TikTok, it's not worth it. No,
exactly, and that's kind of the sad thing about it.
Is this the moment where we should put the disclaimer? Boomer rant, bang.
Yeah, old man rant. No, but it was more that I thought if I have all these different genres, then someone might go, I don't like jangle pop, but I like trip hop. And so I'll listen to that track and, I don't like trip hop, but I love Swamp Boogie. Oh, great, here's a track. So it was kind of look, it doesn't matter what kind of, if you like guitar music, there's a song on here that hopefully should, resonate with you. And so that was the idea of all of the different genres. Plus, I don't like just writing. I can sit down and just write jangle pop songs, each and every day, but I think songs tell you what they want to sound like. And so I like, exploring different genres just to see, how well the song can come out.
Nice. Well, I say let's not waste any more time on the chit chat and let's play it.
All right.
Here it is, folks. It is Just Think of You, right off the new English Rain album, Echoes of You. We'll be back soon.
I just think of you, just think of you, and it's alright, yeah, it's alright. When I'm blue, when I'm really sad and blue, there doesn't seem a point in going on, going on. I just think of you, just think of you, and it's alright, yeah, it's alright, come on. think of you, just think of you. And it's alright, said it's alright.
Oh, yeah, rock and roll, baby. That was a little stomper of a song. That was Just Think of You by The English Rain. And I've got Steve from that very band, as you know, with me right now, chatting all things album and otherwise. Steve, love me.
Old man rant.
Another. We can turn it into a segment just for this episode. So
yeah, exactly.
I hope to get
Angry
more.
old men.
We don't get enough old man rants on this show. We need more. We need more of that.
No worries, I can help you out there.
I was going to say, so you mentioned obviously you're the one that does end up coming to the table with most of the songs, but you mentioned there's a lot of guest vocalists on the album. I was going to say, what are there any songs that you actually sing on, or is it all guests?
Yeah, no, there is. I do sing on the trip hop song, Before the Dark.
Yes.
And that's a pretty personal song for me because of, you know, the connections and my cousin. And I was going to get someone else to sing it, but, you know, when we were in the studio, we thought, we'll just leave it as is. But Neil and I we'd been big fans of Massive Attack and that whole idea of the collective, you know, bringing in, you know, different vocalists and things like that, to kind of change and keep the sound fresh. And so that, you know, that's why we, you know, brought in the different vocalists. But it's kind of even morphed beyond that because the person who's responsible for all of our videos and the cover and the logo, Carolyn, she's been as much a part of this record as anyone who's played music on it. And it kind of made me think of that, you know, with the Gorillaz where you've got Jamie Hewlett, who's predominantly just responsible for the artwork, you know, is as much as part of the Gorillaz as, you know, Damon Albarn, who's, you know, producing most of the music. So, you know, it took really 7 people to put this record together, both visually and from an audio point of view. And I think that's kind of a nice thing to have all of that creative energy going into the mix.
So do you find then that visuals are really important as far as what the message is that you're trying to get across, just as much as the music?
Yeah, like the album cover. Like the person on the album cover, and again, this is a kind of another cool story. The lady on the cover is one of my ex-partners. She actually co-wrote "Baby Please" with me, and
I was going to say how much. How much did she? Who owed who? What in that one?
Well, it was funny. I was actually the day I was writing that, we were going out for breakfast, and she was getting ready, and I was plunking around on the guitar, and I started writing it. And she kind of was throwing these lines at me. And that's how it ended up being co-written, you know, that she was, you know, we were back and forthing to each other. So with that cover, what we wanted to try and achieve, you know, echoes of you, it's like, you know, where after a relationship, you still remember people, you know, being in your house or the place that you lived in, or when you go out somewhere and you think, oh, you know, I remember coming here with, you know, blah person. And so the idea of that was not only, you know, the people in relationships that are these echoes that, you know, you have or memories, but all of the, like the pop memorabilia on there is all of the things that influenced me as I've, you know, kind of grown up musically, you know, from the Beatles, you know, Paul Weller, the Monkees, you know, there's Oasis in there. You know, it's one of those things, if it was a vinyl size, you could spend all day trying to pick the different things in the picture. So,
I was going to say, is there plans to press it on vinyl?
We'd love to. You know, we did CDs. But the problem for us is, you know, because this is our debut album, we don't have that fan base to be able to make that commitment from a vinyl financially, point of view, to go, look, because the minimum I think you got to get is 100. It's quite dear when we've had about 15 or 20 people say, look, I'd love this on vinyl, but you can do that, I guess, if you've got CD, and we've pretty much sold out of our CD run. But financially, it's a lot to invest. And because we don't play live, we don't have those avenues really to sell the product. But yeah, like vinyl size, it'd be fantastic. Because I think that picture is just a really good cover photo. And even just the videos, the logo again, it's a tip of our hat to, kind of where we came from. Even the She's a Rainbow video, again, that's the cover girl from the record, Tammy. So she's been really involved throughout the process from a visual point of view. And all of our singles and album, the logo and the fonts are all the same on exactly the thing. So it really kind of keeps a consistency throughout. So I think, creatively, different things appeal to different people, and we get so much great feedback about the covers and on the singles and the album. It's been fantastic, and same as the videos, and that's a testament to Carolyn. If I was in charge of covers for the singles, they'd be stick figures drawn on a piece of paper. Which isn't quite visually as exciting, obviously.
Yes. Well, speaking of Gorilla, and because whatever guitarists from Muse, like one of their covers is just stick figures, isn't it? It looks like it was scribbled on a bit of paper. Is that?
Yeah, but it's Jamie Hewlett that drew it, so he's okay. He's allowed to draw stick figures. He's got the cred behind him. I've got nothing.
Oh, so that's all it is. It's all street cred. That's what we're looking at.
It's all street cred, and I can't even say that my stick figures would look that good, and that's a bit sad, really, isn't it?
Chuck a frame on it, put it up in a modern art museum, sell for $1.5 million.
$1 for it.
Yeah, some tax write-off for some billionaire somewhere, probably.
Absolutely.
I want to say with the recording process too, I wanted to touch on that because so you obviously recorded it all together in Brisbane, yes?
Yeah, so our process, and one of the great things this has allowed us to do this a lot probably cheaper, is that both Neil and I have the program Logic. We record as much as we humanly can before we go into the studio. So then we just take the stems in of what we've recorded to Jason, the producer, and he'll go, that's good, that's not, or whatever. So stuff like acoustic guitars always has to be recorded in the studio. We just can't get a good sound, outside of the studio. Same as the vocals. And then there was even things in the studio where we'd go, yeah, look, I like what we're doing on guitar, but let's just try it through a different amp and things like that. But I would think 80% of the record was, recorded prior to going into the studio. And Jason, he's so responsible for the sound of this record. It's amazing. His ideas, the way he pushed us all, and just his creative part of the process just helped us to achieve the record that we really wanted to achieve. I can't recommend him highly enough.
Was he? Was there a lot of intervention on his part in terms of him providing that third point of opinion in terms of, this should be added here, or maybe let's leave it there? Was there a lot of that going on as well?
Yeah, he sort of does it in a subtle way where he'd go, why don't we try something else? Which was Swahili for saying, that was terrible, let's do something better.
Yes, very Machiavellian.
It was, yeah. So,
but did you find that really helped in hindsight in terms of really fine-tuning the sound?
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's certainly like some organ on the record that we just didn't even think of, or things like there's a tambourine on one of the tracks, and you go, I can't believe we didn't think to have the tambourine on there before, and it really enhances it. He did a lot of the solos on there, and Neil did about half as well. So, but Jason's a really fine guitar lead player that really took some of the songs, like the title track Echoes of You, which is quite rocky. That solo kind of took that song to a new level. But yeah, he was never, at the end of the day, he knew kind of what we wanted to do. And I think that everyone was on the same page, and really everyone just kind of wanted to do the best version of the song we could. So there was no ego in the sense that we were like, no, this is exactly what I want and it's going to be like that. it was very collaborative amongst everyone that was involved, and that helped. If you've only got like a one-person vision, it can be sometimes very tunnel-wise. So as long as, you're kind of open to a few things, I think that's where you get the better songs.
I was going to ask, because you mentioned off air that obviously, I know you two as a duo have been together for quite a while, but obviously a lot of the stuff you have played is covers, and you've been involved in a lot of cover bands over the years. Do you find that there is an advantage to having that experience as well when you're coming out and writing your own songs that you perhaps wouldn't be able to bring to the table if you were only doing singer-songwriter stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Like if you play covers, and again, when you play in covers bands, you tend to have to play songs that are popular and catchy and singles and things like that. So you kind of get to understand how those songs are built. Songwriting's a craft. Someone has to sit down and build it up bit by bit. Like the old John and Paul idea of, sitting across each other with two guitars.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're playing those covers, you kind of get a real sense of, well, this is what they did here, and this is the chord progressions that they used to achieve this. And there's a great story that I remember reading about from Andy Partridge from XTC, who said when he goes to write a record, before he does, he goes off and listens to the Beatles and Burt Bacharach and all
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Burt Bacharach.
Yeah, and
so I just had to. Nobody mentions Burt. Unless you, and that's the thing. I feel I'm so thankful for Mike Myers for doing that, for giving us that classic line. So I just have to interject there. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, it's fine. Look, Bacharach's just the man could write such a catchy melody, and that's what Partridge is sort of saying. He kind of immerses himself in these masters of the craft, and then goes and tries to do, tries to rake his own stuff. And I do the same, like I'll listen to, things that I like, and, not to the point of Noel Gallagher where he'll just basically, rewrite the same song. But, I think all of those songs you can kind of go, I like what they did there. How can I improve on that? Or what can I do to sort of achieve something similar? So yeah, having a good understanding of pop music, whether it be playing in covers bands or listening to lots of music, I think actually helps songwriters, because, you're learning all of these tricks and techniques and to a point where you go, well, I know what works and what doesn't. And you give it your best shot at trying to emulate it in your own way. Yeah,
no, that's certainly fair. Is there, I was going to say, if going on sort of, you mentioned picking up tips and tricks over the years, if you were to go back to yourself, now that you've had decades of experience doing this, what would have you said to yourself if you had the time machine and went back to yourself when you were just starting out? I don't know what age it was when you started out, but if you could tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
I'd probably try and find the biggest selling single of all time and just tell myself the chords and the words and then go and record it 20 years before someone else did it.
Oh, there was okay, you've probably heard of it because it was that really, and apparently it was a terrible film, just as a thing. It was just fan lip service. It was Yesterday, where the guy transports to the world where there's like the Beatles didn't exist, and the premise, the premise could have been a lot funnier, but apparently the film was terrible.
Yeah, like the idea, it was a cool idea. I must admit, but no, I don't know if there's just one thing. I think the message is always keep going at it, and I often hear that never give up on your dreams and all of that, and I always think, oh my god. But the reality.
So are you saying okay? Let's get pessimistic for just 5 seconds. Are you saying there is a point you have to give up?
Well, I'm probably the other end of the spectrum because I'm not 23. I've just figured, look, I probably should put a record out before I die. Otherwise I'm going to miss the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. So no reincarnation then on your part. So
no, I've just got to pump out 5 records really in quick succession before something happens to me. I think that's the key.
Fair enough. No, that's cool, and I mean, it's always interesting to get a different perspective because obviously a lot of as our listeners know, a lot of people that we interview are very much at the other end of the spectrum. They're just starting out with their careers, and in this case, this is the first album of originals, but you've had that decades long of experience to really build on it. So you definitely bring, and it's still a very youthful perspective. I'll get at that. Like you don't think of age when you listen to the album, and I don't try and put that at the forefront when I'm listening, but you don't get the idea that. That you can tell there's a lot of experience and a lot of background there, but you don't think of age when you listen to the album. So is that something that you consciously think of as someone that is, been in the game for a while?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of the reasons why Neil and I don't appear on the front cover, and there's a fantastic looking lady on there instead. Because I think
what sells.
I absolutely know what sells. I think in the world of, and I'm inverting commas, the pop world here. They're a lot more they're probably a lot more judgmental. In the world of country or that sort of side of things, you can be 65, 450 pounds, put out a great record, and the country people just accept it. If it's a great song, it's a great song. But the pop world, I think, is a lot more visually driven as well. So, Neil and I, we've both got heads like drop pies. You don't want us sitting on the front cover of a record and people judging that.
Look, a drop pie still tastes great. So,
Well, it depends on what you drop it on.
Ah, yes, that's a good point. Don't touch the floor bit. Scrape the bottom bit off. Yeah. It's still good.
But we just thought, look, we wanted people just to kind of listen to the songs and judge them on the songs, not on whether we were men's health models or an ad for retirement village. Because it doesn't matter, really. It doesn't. And I listen to songs that now are 40 or 50 years old, and they're still great songs. It doesn't matter. So like I said, I think that certainly areas like the country and the roots and those sort of genres are so much more accepting of the visual aspects, whereas I think pop and the mainstream really needs you to look young and good, and we don't.
Do you think that's changed at all in the last couple of decades? Like, has country always been, in your experience, that accepting and pop that, let's say, vapid, for want of a better word?
Yeah, I think. Well, look, country still has that aspect of it where there's a lot of people who look fantastic. Like a lot of stunning, both men and women. But they've always had that, that that's kind of group underneath who just don't look as great. They're great players, they're great singers, they're great songwriters. No one could, make the argument that Willie Nelson's a good sort.
Smoke enough of his special brew. I'm sure that would change.
If you smoked enough of it, then you probably could. But I think it certainly helps. And would I like to have made this record when I was 23? Yeah, but that wouldn't have helped in the looks department because that I wasn't any better looking then either. But it'd be great if I was a great looking guy at 23 putting a record out, because it probably would help a little. You still got to have the songs, obviously. But I would be far less worried about appearing in press photos and on the record. Whereas now I just think, well, it probably doesn't do us any great favours being on there. People can go to the website and see pictures of Neil and I if you're that hard up that you really want to see what we look like. But does it change the song? It doesn't. Because some of these songs, or in fact a lot of these songs, were written at times when I was 23 or I was 16 or I was 30, so, they are written by a person of that age. They're just being performed by a person who's a bit older now.
I want to just touch briefly on what's coming next, because you did mention that, you're already in the process of starting album number 2. So is the intention to sort of have things switched up a bit compared to this current release for what happens next?
Yeah, look, there'll certainly be more of the same. There's a couple of things that we want to try a little bit differently. certainly with this record, like Neil and I had a pretty good idea going in what we wanted, and then, other people kind of brought their collaborative thing after that fact. This time we want to try and get all of the people who played on this record in a room from kind of the demo sort of stage and have them start thinking about it. Because again, I think more input is beneficial. So, and on top of that, there's, so at the moment we're looking at tracking a new record. There's a lady that I'm looking at the moment, and we look like we're going to try and do an EP of trip hop. And I've got another friend who wants to do some kind of Gary Newman-esque electronica. So there's, kind of three things that I'm kind of working on all sort of at the same time. And some of those will probably bleed into the record, like the next record would have definitely had a trip hop song on it because I've got about 8 or 10 of them. But, now that this lady, who's is already in a band who does trip hop, I'll probably move some of those songs to that project, which will free up, space on the second English Rain record to try some other things. I think that there'll be maybe a few more Americana-y sort of tracks on there. And I guess it depends, what I'm writing at the time as well. Like Everywhere I Go from the current record was written in March with Cassie. So that song wasn't even in, we hadn't even thought about putting it on the record because it didn't exist. So, things change as it's going along. But the first couple of songs, I know straight away, we've got a jangle pop song. There's a song that's very Americana. There's another one that's very jam, early Paul Weller jam. On there, there's also some kind of style council-y sort of sophisti pop. So again, it'll be all different genres.
Yep.
Probably won't be another Swamp Girl. I think that's a one-off. But there'll be probably a heavier song on there. Yeah. I've got an industrial song that I'd like to work on as well. But because we don't play live as well, it's a bit easier for us to kind of put out a record with 12 completely different songs on. When you play live, sometimes there's an expectation that you're in a certain genre, and you can kind of move slightly outside of that genre, but you can't be AC/DC and then get up and play a country ballad.
Of course.
Whereas we don't have those limitations.
I was gonna before we do go to the break, I just want to mention, of course, if you can tell us where all your socials are and where we can obviously listen to the album.
Yep, so we stream on all of the major streaming sites. The obvious ones like
Spotify, iTunes, all that jazz.
But we're on SoundCloud. If you don't have the subscription, we've got our own webpage, which is theenglishrain.net. We're on Facebook. We are on Twitter and Instagram, but I can never remember the addresses for those. But if you search for The English Rain, it's usually
comes up.
Well, there is a 5-piece Beatles tribute band in America that sometimes comes up. So we're not them. Don't go to those.
Double check for the logo. I'm guessing the logo is what you look for.
Double check for the logo. It's over everything. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So go and check it out. Obviously, I'm assuming all the socials are linked to the website, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, go and give it a spin, guys, when you get a chance, and check out, I guess, keep an eye out on the socials to see what the guys are up to in the future months as well. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. It's been good fun.
It's been my pleasure. It's always good to get on and have an angry old man rant. Hopefully people will dig the record, and the next song you're going to play, My Town, is one of my favourite tracks on the record.
Yeah, tell us. I was going to say that was going to be my segue. Tell us a bit about it, because we are going to play My Town next.
Yeah, it's when I worked for EMI Music in the 2000s, I was lucky enough to work with the Go-Betweens, and so we got to know Grant and Robert and Adele and all the guys. And when Grant passed, it was an absolute tragedy. And the next day, I literally picked up the guitar. Well, that day, I got off the phone to someone who told me that it had happened, and I wrote this song straight away, which was a real tribute. Well, I want it to be a tribute to Grant, the city of Brisbane, and all of those sort of things. And, probably the thing I was most chuffed about was our paper up here, the Courier Mail, said that it was a Streets of Your Town for the new millennium, which is about as high a praise as I could ever hope for. And, you know, it's just a good, fun song for anyone, for any town or any city that you live in.
Nice.
You know, it's just a nice song, sing-along track.
Cool. Well, let's do it. Here it is. Do you want to give us do you want to take us out on the song?
You're about to listen to the English Rain's first single off of their debut album, Echoes of You, and it's called My Town.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Find myself walking through these streets again, ending up at places you used to go. Familiar faces smiling, walk on by, and I know I am home. The city gets inside you like the blood in your veins, like the music you feel in your soul. And I can't take a walk without seeing your face in the places we used to go. The sun is shining, I'm walking around. Why would I be anywhere else than in my town? Sun is shining, life's so good in my town. I walk past Rick's and I see your empty seat and the endless stream of indigos. I hear the band playing across the street, and I know I am home. The city gets inside you like the blood in your veins, like the music you feel in your soul. And I can't take a walk without seeing your face in the places we used to go. Sun is shining, I'm walking around. Why would I be anywhere else than in my town? Sun is shining, life's so good in my town. Sun is shining, I'm walking around. Why would I be anywhere else than in my town? Sun is shining, life's so good in my town. Sun is shining, I'm walking around. Why would I be anywhere else than in my town? Sun is shining.
AustralianMusiciansRadio.com